Shrimad's divine grace, Wanderers Kanabai Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam ki, Their most merciful Lordship Shri Shriadakan Javiari ki, Shri Jagannath Shri Baladeva Mai Subhadra ki, Shri Nataji Shri Balagopal ki, Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki, Nitai Go Premanand. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the Lord Spirit of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. So today, being Ekadasi, going to read from the Ekadasi book, and for us to be able to get the total benefit of keeping Ekadasi as though we fasted all the way, simply by reciting the names of the Ekadasis, all the Ekadasis, we get that benefit. So if you'll repeat after me. Utpana, Mokshara, Safala, Putrada, Satila, Jaya, Vijaya, Amalaki, Papamochani, Kamara, Barutini, Mohini, Apara, Nirjala, Yogini, Padma, Kamika, Putrada, Aja, Parivartini, Indira, Papankush, Ram, Haribodini, Padmini, and Parama. And so today we are on Putrada Ekadasi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nasta Prayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtiki. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam book, The Day of Lord Hari, from chapter 18, Putrada Ekadasi. Yudhisthira Maharaj said, quote, O Madhusudan, O killer of the Madhu demon, please be merciful to me and describe to me the Ekadasi that occurs during the light fortnight of the month of Shravana, July and August. The Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, replied, Yes, O King, I shall happily narrate its glories to you, for just by hearing about this sacred Ekadasi, one attains the merit of performing a horse sacrifice. At the dawn of Dwarpa Yuga, there lived a king by the name of Mahijita, who ruled the kingdom of Mahishmatipuri. Because he had no son, his entire kingdom seemed utterly cheerless to him. A married man who has no son gains no happiness in this life or the next. For a long time, this king tried very hard to obtain an heir, but to no avail. Seeing his years advancing ever onwards, King Mahijita became increasingly anxious. One day he told an assembly of his advisors, I've committed no sin in this life, and there is no ill-gotten wealth in my treasury. I've never usurped the offerings to the demigods or Brahmins. When I waged war and conquered kingdoms, I followed the rules and regulations of the military art, and I have protected my subjects as if they were my own children. I punished even my own relatives if they broke the law, and if my enemy was gentle and religious, I welcomed him. O twice-born souls, although I am a religious and faithful follower of the Vedic standards, still my home is without a son. Kindly tell me the reason for this. Hearing this, the king's Brahmin advisors discussed the subject among themselves, and with the aim of benefiting the king, they visited the various ashrams of great sages. At last, they came upon a sage who was austere, pure, and self-satisfied, and who was strictly observing a vow of fasting. His senses were completely under control. He had conquered his anger, and he was expert at performing his occupational duty. Indeed, this great sage was expert in all the conclusions of the Vedas, and he had extended his lifespan to that of Lord Brahma himself. His name was Lomash, Rishi, and he knew past, present, and future. After each kalpa passed, one hair would fall out of his body. All the king's Brahmin advisors very happily approached him one by one to offer their humble respects. Captivated by this great soul, King Mahijita advisors offered obeisances to him and said very respectfully, quote, "Only because of our great good fortune, O sage, have we been allowed to see you." End quote. Lama Sharisi saw them bowing down to him and replied, quote, "Kindly let me know why you have come here. Why are you praising me? I must do all I can to solve your problems, for sages like me have only one interest, to help others. Do not doubt this." The king's representative said, quote, "We have come to you, O exalted sage, to ask for your help in solving a very serious problem. O sage, you are like Lord Brahma. Indeed, there is no better sage in the entire world. Our king, Mahijita, is without a son, though he has sustained and protected us as if we were his sons. Seeing him so unhappy on account of being sonless, we have become very sad. O sage, and therefore we have entered the forest to perform severe austerities. By our good fortune we happened upon you. Everyone's desire and activities become successful just by your darshan. Thus we humbly ask that you tell us how our kind king can obtain a son." Hearing this sincere plea, Lomash Rishi absorbed himself in deep meditation for a moment, and at once understood the king's previous life. Then he said, quote, "Your ruler was a merchant in his past life, and feeling his wealth insufficient, he committed sinful deeds. He traveled to many villages to trade his goods. Once at noon, on the day after the Ekadasi that comes during the light fortnight of the month of Jesta, he became thirsty while traveling from place to place. He came upon a beautiful pond on the outskirts of a village, but just as he was about to drink at the pond, a cow arrived there with her newborn calf. These two creatures were also very thirsty because of the heat. When the cow and calf started to drink, the merchant rudely shoved them aside and selfishly slaked his own thirst. This offense against the cow and her calf has resulted in your king's being without a son now. But the good deeds he performed in his previous life have given him rulership over an undisturbed kingdom." Hearing this, the king's advisors replied, "O renowned Rishi, we have heard that the Vedas say one can nullify the effects of one's past sins by acquiring merit. Be so kind as to give us some instruction by which our king's sins can be destroyed. Please give him your mercy so that a prince will take birth in his family." Lomash Rishi said, quote, "There's an Ekadasi called Putrada, which comes during the light fortnight of the month of Shravana. On this day, all of you, including your king, should fast and stay awake all night, strictly following the rules and regulations. Then you should give the king whatever merit you gain by this fast. If you follow these instructions of mine, he will surely be blessed with a fine son." All the king's advisors became very pleased to hear these words from Lomash Rishi, and they all offered him their grateful obeisances. Then, their eyes bright with happiness, they returned home. When the month of Shravana arrived, the king's advisors remembered the advice of Lomash Rishi, and under their direction, all the citizens of Mahimashpati Puri, as well as the king, fasted on Ekadasi. And on the next day, Dwadasi, the citizens dutifully offered their accrued merit to him. By the strength of all this merit, the queen became pregnant and eventually gave birth to a most beautiful son. O Yudhisthira, Lord Krishna concluded, The Ekadasi that comes during the light fortnight of the month of Shravana has thus rightfully become famous as Putrada, bestower of a son. Whoever desires happiness in this world and the next should certainly fast from all grains and legumes on this holy day. Indeed, whoever simply hears the glories of Putrada Ekadasi becomes completely free of all sins, is blessed with a good son, and surely ascends to heaven after death. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Ekadasi ki jai. What is revealed here is that these citizens, their love for the king was such that normally this that they would accumulate for their own benefit, they gave to the king. So this reveals to us as well. A lot of times we have in our minds people that we've had previous friendships with that we may feel affection for and care for and actually want them to be able to find Krishna. So what I do a lot of times when people are praying, asking me to pray for them, or these thoughts come to my mind about past relationships and friendships I have. When I make an offering to Krishna, I ask Krishna to give them the benefit by following these instructions. So you can do that as well. It is revealed by these scriptures, John. Now we will look into Shrimadbhagavatam, the first canto, the 7th chapter, text number 41. 49. Okay, very good. Text 49. Sutta Uvacha Dharmyam Nyayam Sakarunam Dharmyam Nyayam Sakarunam Nirvyalikam Samam Mahat Nirvyalikam Samam Mahat Raja Dharma Suto Rajnya Raja Dharma Suto Rajnya Pratyanandad Vacho Dvija Pratyanandad Vacho Dvija Sutta Dharmyam Niryanam Sakuranam Nirvyalikam Samam Mahat Rajadharma Satoragnya Pratyanandad Vachodvija Sutta Vacha Dharmyam Nyayam Sakarunam Nirvalikam Samam Mahat Rajadharma Satoragnya Pratyanandad Vachodvija Sutta Vacha Dharmyam Nyayam Sakarunam Nirvyalikam Samam Mahat Rajadharma Satoragnya Pratyanandad Vachodvija. Sutta Vacha Dharmyam Nyayam Sakarunam Nirvyalikam Samam Mahat Rajadharma Satoragnya Pratyanandad Vachodvija Sutavacha Dharmyam Nyayam Sakarunam Nirvyalikam Samam Mahat Rajadharma Satorajna Pratyanandad Vachodvija Sutavacha. Sutta Goswami said, Dharmyam, in accordance with the principles of religion. Nayam, justice. Sakarunam, full of mercy. Vyalikam, without duplicity in Dharma. Samam, equity. Maha, glorious. Raja, the king. Dharma Sutta, son. Rajna, by the queen. Pratyanandat, supported. Vacha, statements. Dvija, O Brahmins. Sutavacha dharmyam nayam sakarunam nirvyalikam samam mahat rajadharma satorajna pratyanandad vachodvija. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Sutta Goswami said, O Brahmins, King Yudhisthira fully supported the statements of the Queen, which were in accordance with the principles of religion and were justified, glorious, full of mercy and equity, and without duplicity. Please repeat. Sutta Goswami said, O Brahmins, King Yudhisthira fully supported the statements of the Queen, which were in accordance with the principles of religion and were justified, glorious, full of mercy and equity, and without duplicity. Sutta Goswami said, O Brahmins, King Yudhisthira fully supported the statements of the Queen, which were in accordance with the principles of religion and were justified, glorious, full of mercy and equity, and without duplicity. Purport by Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Yudhisthira, who was the son of Dharmaraj, or Yamaraj, fully supported the words of Queen Draupadi in asking Arjuna to release Ashwatthama. One should not tolerate the humiliation of a member of a great family. Arjuna and his family were indebted to the family of Dronacharya because of Arjuna's learning the military science from him. If ingratitude were shown to such a benevolent family, it would not be at all justified from the moral standpoint. The wife of Dronacharya, who was the half-body of the great soul, must be treated with compassion, and she should not be put into grief because of her son's death. That is compassion. Such statements by Draupadi are without duplicity because action should be taken with full knowledge. The feeling of equality was there because Draupadi spoke out of her personal experience. A barren woman cannot understand the grief of a mother. Draupadi was herself a mother, and therefore her calculation of the depth of Kripi's grief was quite to the point, and it was glorious because she wanted to show proper respect to a great family. Om Jnana Timarandasya Granjana Shalakaya Chakshusunitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Well, from having read the end of this, I know that Krishna is going to find a happy medium in between. We can see from this previous story of the king keeping Ekadasi and becoming free from his previous offenses that sometimes little acts that we think will have no result on our life can in fact be the cause of serious problems in our life without realizing it. So the king was made aware of the fact that he had previously simply offended a cow. He had given offense to a cow, pushing the cow and the calf out of the way so that he could take drink first. Now, in a human being's mind, it would be proper for a human being to consider himself more important than the cow, right? That's normally the way we think. But cows are born in the mode of goodness, and their function is in the world is doing more for the earth and the benefit of the living entities in the planet than any man can do by himself. So we see that offense against a cow can be taken as a great offense that can even affect our ability to produce offspring in the future. Now here we are with the offspring from Dronacharya, but he is being considered by them still as saintly, you may say, because they're wanting to completely forgive him altogether for doing this, putting Dronacharya ahead of, because he was the teacher, because he had given them the very valuable life they were experiencing by the knowledge he had given to them. So in effect, they are accrediting Drona as more or less being responsible for them to even have any knowledge whatsoever. Still, it is difficult for us to put into play when somebody kills, especially children who are not even having any accumulation of karma or anything while they're in their sleep, what to speak. But love, as we can see, is a very complicated and involved. What are we worried about? I'm not sitting in the proper place, that's all right. Love itself is something that can be very encapsulating by the soul. The soul that becomes so overwhelmed with their affection for others can cause themselves to be to be having to spend a long, long time in the material universe. And considering this one act of this king we were previously talking about in Ekadasi, the acts we take part in normally throughout the day, any one particular act we don't normally consider as a great act of something that will affect our whole life normally. But see, even just this, I used to live in Arizona guarding a mine, and there was a big pool out there in the middle of nowhere. It's in the foothills of the desert. But people used to dump stuff into this place, but we used to also drink water from it. And there were cows there, and there were miners, these old men in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and they would bring their cows down there to drink as well. And I remember one account with a man bringing his cows down there. And we had been there before he got there. But he insisted that we let the cows drink and not get close to them. So this brought into my mind, this account brought into my mind of even in Western culture, where there's no real appreciation for cows whatsoever, still the respect he was somehow showing to his particular cow. This man had evidently developed a friendship with the cow or something. Because in normal Western civilization, to give an animal respect over a human being is just unthought of. So we see, though, in history, especially I'm reading in the sixth canto now, that these Manus who are able to produce progeny from their own bodies, they produce animals. They produce animals right out of their human body. So, with just natural affection, anything coming out of your own body, it would seem, just like a mother for a child, they would have extreme amount of care and affection for them. So this is what Mother Draupadi is bringing out in the fact that this love that is meant to give us fulfillment and satisfaction of life should not be used as a weapon, even against our enemies. Because the nature of love is such that importance that Krishna, everything he's doing for the benefit of the living entities in the material world is because of his love for mankind. And in effect, we could say that the act we committed to get here into the material world is cause enough for us to have to suffer death. So now that we have come in contact with knowledge, still knowing our own past, we should not look upon other living entities that have not reached the stage of advancement that we have in a prejudiced way, in a biased way, to condemn them and to make belief that there's no hope for them now, they're lost, they're going to hell. Because this is more or less what is being revealed here, that what war causes is just the opposite of what Krishna is coming to the planet to do. It causes people to form in their minds the ideas that human beings should be killed. And so with this too, we will see that Krishna takes all these things into consideration when he ultimately makes the judgment to shame Ashvatam beyond death. He puts him to shame. It's one thing to die in shame on a battlefield because you're killing your enemies, but then it's another thing to be punished because of criminal activity. So if you're engaging in a war, you would seem there's no laws. Most people on a battlefield who are fighting for their lives can't stop to take part and stop shooting at people who are shooting at them due to certain laws that are existing. The time and circumstance that requires and demands of the military-minded souls that are engaged in that they give all out to the trying to defeat the enemy. So in his youthful thoughts of what he could do, Ashvatam felt that by killing these children, that would be his greatest effort that he could make. And this was in effect as well. See, many efforts that are made by people are actually a declaration of their own weaknesses, their own fears. And this is one of those very such incidents. And when fear is the driving force, if Ashvatam was driven to kill those children by fear, the outcome is not justice then. And the outcome is ruinous for everyone, ultimately. So fear can be a very destructive force as well. That's why Krishna gives us the understanding to become fearless, because in fear, people will do things that they will later regret. We do things out of fear. And there is what is called automatic reaction that your body does sometimes out of physical, just knee-jerk reaction, it's called, right? I was in a car one time, my wife was driving, she's looking down on the floor for something, she dropped or something, and there's this big Mack truck coming right at us. And I would never in my life hit a woman, but immediately my hand just smacked across her face, and she looked up and saw that, and then she immediately put it in gear and drove us across the street. Otherwise, I would not even be sitting here today telling you this story. But fear can have can be of a saving nature, but it also can put us into a place of distress unnecessarily, because people create fears that are not real. One famous president, I think it was President Roosevelt, made the statement that the greatest fear is of fear itself. So what this suggests is that many times we restrain from being put into circumstances because of our ideas or thoughts of what the conclusion will be if we get put into that set of circumstances. And that kind of fear can actually drive us from performing devotional activities. What to speak when we see Arjuna on the battlefield. If he was allowing fear to overcome the instructions Krishna was giving him, who held in his hands life and death of every person on the battlefield. But with Krishna bringing up any doubts whatsoever, which he brought to Krishna, just the same way we're instructed that we bring up our doubts to our Guru. If you have any doubts whatsoever about the movement, about the philosophy, about relationships with devotees, about the way things are being done, anything, this should be reasoned with more senior devotees, and if it can't be resolved with senior devotees, then we go to our Guru and ask for his advice. Recognizing the Guru, in effect, is what is being done here by Draupadi. She's recognizing Dronacharya in a proper perspective. But there are different ways of looking at this situation as well, because on the one hand, when people are in positions of leadership, they are representing the position itself. So by their lives' actions, they are saying, this person that I have been appointed to be, whether it's a representative of law or maybe a court judge, something like this, they are, by their lives' activities every day, making the statement that this is the method that a person in my position should follow. If that causes disturbances in society, then society rebels, and then they deal with the judge's activities. But more is expected of the judge than is expected of normal people's activities. In a courtroom, a judge is restricted from being able to yell and scream at defendants and like this, or accuse him wrongly. He has to hear both sides and judge unbiased, using simply what he has seen, what is presented by the lawyers, the attorneys. In a time of war, there are circumstances, you don't have time to think. You don't have time to make judgments. So you go by automatic actions that your body responds to from your mind. This is why training is so important before entering into the field. This is why they go through 6 to 8, 9, 10 months of training. And then training is looked at as a continuous effort that the souls make, because the nature of our bodies is that we don't engage it in that service, it will lose the ability to perform it as perfectly. And if we're engaged every single day, we can become very adept at performing these seemingly mundane activities. I mean, what could be more mundane than being on a battlefield trying to kill people? And yet, it is also looked at as the most glorious, because the amount of courage required to put your life right on the line, which is what these warriors, each and every one of them, are doing. So on the one hand, we judge them by their knowledge that they should know better and be able to act out their lives in such a way that it's expected by society. On the other hand, you could say they are put through so much stress that is expected under some circumstances that some people can't endure the stress. Vietnam, I was told, the war got so bad, when there is so much rebellion against the war at home, then it disturbs the minds of the participants in the battle as well. When they see that none of the general public are enthused about them going to battle, they're no longer looked at as heroes. So the general public's perspective can also have an effect on the minds and the consciousness of the warriors, even to the extent that, and I have personal association of friends that were in this war, some of them, seeing they were killing what seemed to them to be innocent people, farmers harvesting their crops, were being bombed and shot with machine guns. And so in order for there to be some form of justice in the minds of some, they would even booby trap some of their own companions' weapons. Ramaraj, who was here, he had fixed computers in an airplane, in airplanes that were used to bomb cities. To keep them from killing as many people, he could change the aiming device. So he was saying that purposely people were sabotaging, it's called sabotage, when you purposely do something against your own comrades. And see, this is what happens with Maya as well. You don't normally see devotees arguing back and forth or fighting with each other. But if they stop chanting around, they stop looking towards devotees as the surrendered souls to Krishna, and they start thinking more so, putting more importance upon their own desires, then they can fall back into the same Maya that Krishna has created the movement to get us out of. So we have to be very vigilant in our keeping our mindset properly situated. And like Mother Draupadi is holding in her mind, that the office itself of Brahman is such that we don't look at Brahmins as normal people, normal civilians. We have what's called lay people and clergy people. So clergy are held to a little higher standard. They're expected because they are the ones that are appointed by society to be able to point out the failures of those who are not keeping the regulative principles. But if they are not themselves keeping those regulative principles, they will lose their ability. So the same way, chanting is giving us ability. Remembering Krishna and performing devotional activities toward Krishna also then perfects that ability that we have. But we have to keep in our minds the reality of its eternal nature, so that we know these activities we engage in are those that will enable us to continue on the eternal path that we are now on. The path is said to be narrow, the path of truth, and there are many that find the path, but there are few that will take the path to the end. But Krishna gives us the ability, if we are willing to sacrifice our own made-up ideas that our mind is given to about what we should do with our lives, and surrender simply to the instructions Krishna has given us. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam Kalo Nasteva 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 Gitiranyata. And know in that if we do that, Krishna also promises that we will never have to return again to this material situation. So what we are left with is a meditation of what will be if we stay on this path, and how glorious it will be, because these things that we are reading about will actually be taking part in bringing liberty, like Narad Muni bringing truth to those souls who have so far gone away from the path, to liberate everyone we come in contact with. So just see Mother She's bringing out that she doesn't want another soul to suffer the same way she's feeling the suffering. So this same mentality she is having towards a mother creepy, then we could have towards all the living entities that we come in contact with now. We have a feeling for these people that everything they believe themselves to be doing, for the most part, honest people that are working, slaving, basically, to a great extent, because they do not know that the end result of their labors are going to be the cause of suffering. When, in fact, the same energy being put out can be the very cause of the glorious end life, where the soul passes from this kind of a murtya loka to the eternal dwelling in Vaikuntha, where there is no more birth, death, old age, and disease. And we can keep that in our mind constantly and have that as a succoring relief from all the activities we see going on in the material world. Once a devotee makes up his mind that he wants to stay situated in Krishna consciousness, Krishna gives the ability to stay. And then, this state of not knowing what to do is a state of suffering, actually. When people don't know what they want to do with their life, it's a form of suffering, because it's very difficult to make the determination what I'm going to choose to do for the rest of my life. It's going to determine what my next life will be like. And what has happened in the physical realm, so many quote-unquote jobs have been created that are either unnecessarily being performed, or they are being performed with such effect that they will cause serious harm to the participants. All this killing and slaughter of animals. And it's all being looked at as normal. But again, like a devotee in his mind already is made up, and he doesn't have to suffer the thought of what am I going to do? Or even, how do I impress this boss to hire me? You don't need to be hired. Once you're hired by Krishna, you've got the job. You got the eternal job. So what we have to do in our minds is focus on the importance that Krishna is giving, the significance Krishna is giving to these precepts of chanting, taking prasadam, sharing association only with devotees, always talking Krishna Katha and not Gramya Katha. And by this way, we protect ourselves. We stay in the association of devotees. We don't create schisms amongst ourselves. And we know only friendships that increase in value to ourselves as those friendships enliven us, encourage us, and feed us with that word that is feeding to the soul that comes from Krishna's own mouth. So all these teachings that we are learning from is everything that has come out of Krishna's own mouth, which we say, man lives by the words that proceed out of God's mouth. And by applying these principles and learning from these principles every day, then we get to be able to taste what the knowledge is of Krishna consciousness, of eternalness, and of pure love. Pure love meant to be experienced by everyone. So few are given the option, the opportunity. Just to end class there, it's about 5 to 9. Any comments, any questions, any realizations somebody you'd like to share?
When you said about the Ekadashi story, like offense against, like we see on the offering prayers also, like Namo Brahmanya, Namo Brahmana Itacha. So the importance of cow is being depicted by Krishna. So
Yeah.
he protects, he's also controlling.
He's a protector of the cows, yeah. These cows are so beneficial to humankind in Krishna's mind. And I don't know, I've shared before, when I came to find out what they're doing to cows, the last 90 days of their life, in the size of this room, they will put 60 cows. Can you imagine? They have no room to do anything but eat. And then they have a trough that they feed them food in that is recycling their waste. This is what they're doing in the production of cows for meat. Nobody wants to eat their own stool. This is crazy nonsense. They're claiming, and this is all driven by the desire to make more money off of not having to plant food and feed the... I don't know, how much does it cost to grow grass, for God's sake? And what they eat in the wild, that's what they will eat by preference. Yet they will put all this crazy nonsense into their food, making them sick, obviously sick, because in the feedlots they die left and right. And when one dies, they remove all the rest of the cows to leave that one die in the middle of the thing, laying in his own waste, not able now, because after they fall down, they've lost their ability to get up. They can't drink. They lay in their waste, dying, with no one to help them. And then when they do want to try and recuperate, give the animal recuperation, they bring out these big hypodermic needles that they administer in their head with a needle bigger than you would ever want anybody to touch you with. Just crazy mentality. When I first saw this, I prayed to God 3 days. I was crying about this situation that I saw these cows in. But even myself, I had previously lived believing steak was the highest food on the food chain. But even myself, after seeing that, was so taken by it, I cried and even yelled and screamed at God, thinking that He's seeing this thing and yet letting it go on. Then when I came to Krishna consciousness and found out how Krishna feels about the cows, then I come to reason what Krishna must have been seeing in me when I'm yelling out to him that this thing is going on and he's not doing anything about it. 1 week later, after this incident took place, I never, at that time, and still now, I don't read magazines, right? But I was in the backyard of a grocery store, and there was a Time Life magazine laying on the ground with a picture on it that somehow brought into my mind. The front page was revealing a big scandal that was taking place. I opened that book, and it was the very feedlot I had been praying to Krishna about. They got caught. And what was happening, they would weigh these cows before they went to, they put them in the trucks, right? So the farmers that they ship these cows to get paid by the weight that they are when they leave. So they have this overweighing that they were doing when the cows were loaded into the truck. And of course, after they travel by truck for 2-3 days, they lose weight. So what they would do, they would have 2 weights. They would have 1 weight for the scales, and they would have 1 weight for the people that were paying for the meat. And they got caught doing that. And they had been doing this for years and years and years. So just see how practically immediately, this has been going on for years and years and years and years, and I see it once and pray to Krishna about it once, and boom, Krishna does something about it. These people got found out and closed down. So this shows the effect of prayer from someone who doesn't even have knowledge of God. I didn't at that time know that it was bad in God's eyes for these people to be doing these things. Although I was protesting to God to do something about it. And so, years after coming to Krishna consciousness, I keep reflecting upon that, because I realized Krishna was putting in my heart a love for these animals that is just naturally there, because these animals are special, born in the mode of goodness, the cow is. And they only live their lives without doing any harm to any other living animals. And they have enemies that want to eat them, but they don't bring harm to any other living creatures. And everything that comes out of their body is medicinal, of good use for the human being. Milk, the urine, the stool for the plants, everything from the cow, made in the mode of goodness. Any other comments? Any other questions? Jai. Shrimadbhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.